Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
The Bubble, new movie out now on Netflix, written and directed by Judd Apatow, the man who brings us so many comedies. Generally speaking, these comedies that he directs and is a part of tend to be more grounded, more set in a real-life feel with like real-life characters. There's always a little bit of wackiness here and there. I would say like 40-Year-Old Virgin tends to be, I would say, maybe the most wacky cheeseball of his movies in the past. Up until this movie. This movie is 100% wacky cheeseball. To the point where I did not like it. I did not like this movie. It is filled with stupid, unlikable characters. The premise is fun. The casting is fun. I like a lot of these actors. The premise, a movie about a movie being made during the pandemic. An installment. It's the 6th installment, I believe, in a dinosaur franchise that is like a B. The movie makes this, The Bubble makes this movie franchise, I think it's called like Cliff Monsters or something like that. It makes it sound like a cross between Sharknado and Jurassic Park. Like it seems like the movie wants you to think it's like a Jurassic Park type of movie, which I agree with the idea that the Jurassic Park franchise in a whole has kind of gone downhill since the very first one. But not to the extent that this movie makes that franchise look. Like this franchise, it reminds me of, what was it? Was it Zoolander? Where he's in all these action movies that keep getting remade. Was that Zoolander or was that... No. That was Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder, where the Ben Stiller characters in a bunch of these like kind of like B action movie franchise. And that's what this feels like. But like I said, the characters are dumb, unlikable. Not a single character is likable. It is bad writing. Like, I don't know. It's like so much of this, it's just baffling. It is baffling that the guy who just came out with King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson and Bill Burr and Marissa Tomei, which is a movie I liked. I think a lot of people didn't like it, or maybe it was mixed. I enjoyed it. I like the fact that Judd Apatow was doing like these comedies that are like grounded in reality. I think that's something that no comedies are really doing. Most comedies are more similar to The Bubble than they are to most of Judd Apatow's films. And I appreciate that. Like actually filming a comedy with respect and treating it like an actual film rather than most comedies are shot super basic. Writing doesn't seem to be at all a concern for most comedies, unless it's like something like The Naked Gun, where it's like just packed full of comedy, but also ridiculous. Most comedies, I think people disregard most movie making and storytelling like ideals when making a comedy movie, and I don't like that. I think you can make comedies. Film comedies with the same amount of respect that you film a dramatic film, but just have it filled with comedic moments. I think that's possible. And I think that's what Judd Apatow has done in most of his movies in his career. This feels like the worst possible regression. This feels like Judd Apatow is doing the Farrelly Brothers. And like not even good Farrelly Brothers. Like you want to talk about a directing duo that really fell off with comedies. Like this feels like a Farrelly Brother joint more than a Judd Apatow joint. And I just couldn't get into it at all. And the fact that it's like COVID, right? It's this production that's taking place in COVID. Like this movie like the premise, like kind of the ideal of this movie that seems to be thrown out in the movie multiple times is that like during these hard times, it doesn't matter what kind of entertainment comes out as long as something comes out. Like the movie itself in some ways is almost realizes how horrible it is, but doesn't seem to care because it's at least something that's coming out during a pandemic. Now, maybe if this movie had actually come out during like the early months of the pandemic 2 years ago, right? Like when the pandemic first shut down and everything shutting down, you got the NBA shutting down, you got all these major sporting events shutting down, like everything shut down. And if this movie came out like Tiger King came out somehow and was that kind of entertainment during those tough times, then I could see this being like in some ways a nice way to unplug from the reality. But we're at a point in the pandemic where taking a fun look at COVID procedures for making a movie aren't really like, it's not a subject that I find humorous, primarily because the pandemic's still going on and the majority of government, at least in the United States, majority of people don't seem to care anymore. Like now that the vaccines are out, like a lot of people stop giving a shit because they got vaccinated. Obviously, all the people that are on the other side of the belief spectrum when it comes to viruses, the conservative side of that, never really gave a shit about the pandemic, despite the fact most of them are dying. Like we're in a spot where it's like to have a movie that's trying to make fun of the whole thing just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Like this movie would have worked if it came out early in the pandemic or like maybe a decade from now, where it's like the pandemic is long gone, which I can't imagine that in another 8 years the pandemic will have gone. I would imagine that this virus is just going to continue to mutate and evolve. That is, because it just doesn't seem like anybody cares enough to stop it. They didn't care enough to stop it when we had the chance, and now that all these other variants are kind of mutating and it's a constant thing, I can't see it going anywhere. But in 10 years, I could see this movie, if it had come out in 10 years, being a little bit, I would receive it better. But it came out in the worst time, I would say. The worst time. For me. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high-quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now, back to our show. I didn't find any of it funny. The fact that, like, the COVID protocols, and even within the movie, they handle COVID protocols like they're a joke. Like, it's ridiculous that we're even doing any of this stuff. So, I don't know. It's got a lot of problems, like just from a structural, ideal standpoint of what this story is about. But then you add in just, like, the horrible writing. And it's, like, clearly, like, some kind of grab to get people who are, like, young people who are into TikTok into this movie somehow. Because there are literal TikTok dance scenes. There is a scene in this movie where the young character who is being cast in this sequel movie, right, that this movie about a movie is about, right, she was cast because she's a TikTok star. Of course, inspired multiple dance sequences within this movie that have nothing to do with this movie. But there is a literal dance scene with that character dancing with a dinosaur, which the movie parts where they're actually making the movie, you know, would have been interesting. Like, if this movie actually cared about trying to, if it had any like ounce of realism when it came to any of it, it probably would have landed better. But like when they're in the movie moments, you see a fully rendered CG environment around these people, and you're seeing these people act as if, I mean, there's cuts where you're like, they're back in like green screen or whatever that is super cheesy. But then like most of it, it's cut and like fully rendered CG background. So this movie had a big budget, clearly. Like it is a lot of CG in this movie. And they have a scene where this character is doing a dance routine with a dinosaur. It is a lot like the scene in the new Jurassic World where Chris Pratt, or no, Chris, what's his name? The guy that's in everything that's like so overrated, where he like is able to communicate with these like raptors or whatever. She has a scene where she dances with one. Now, that scene may have been funny if they cut back to just the CG version and we're just seeing like what it's like for her to look like what she's, you know, doing a dance routine with nothing in front of her. But it doesn't do that. It's just so stupid. It's just like so much of the stupid. This is what I'm talking about when I say comedies write stupid characters because stupid is funny, but they don't have any nuance to the stupidity. There's no like reason. There's no contrast to the stupidity because everybody's just stupid. So it's like all these actors none of them are likable because they're all whiny little prima donnas. So none of those people are likable. The crew is unlikable. And it's like actors that I enjoy in comedies. Actors I enjoy seeing, and I see them in this horrible film. Let me go through some of the people in this movie. You have, there's people that I don't recognize at all, but you have Keegan-Michael Key, Fred Armisen, who's great. Not in this, obviously, but both of those guys are great. You have the girl, Maria Bakalova, who was the female lead in the newest Borat movie. She's in that. She's great. I think she's great in this movie. It has little to nothing to do. She's one of the people that works at the hotel who's in love with this actor, who's Pedro Pascal. Iris Apatow, obviously his daughter, Leslie Mann. And then other actors like Gus Khan that I don't know who that is, but he seems like he's probably popular somewhere. Rob Delaney, David Duchovny. This movie, not only the fact that it has David Duchovny, but this movie has serious Evolution vibes. The film, the kind of cheesy comedy horror film. I don't know if it would be like alien invasion film called Evolution with David Duchovny. This movie had serious, like the tone of Evolution is very much the tone of this movie, which is also kind of weird that David Duchovny's in this, which David Duchovny is getting old. Dude's getting old. But just like none of these characters, like he plays the character that wants to rewrite this bad script. But then like all of these things that happen in this movie are pointless. Like they don't mean anything. There's like I just didn't care. This whole movie, I'm sitting there, I'm watching these events play out, and I'm not laughing. I'm just like, I hope they all die. I want them all to die. Can they all die? Is that possible? Can the dinosaurs become real and then just kill them all? Can they all die from COVID maybe? Of course they all get COVID. Because that's funny. Oh, they all got COVID. They got to go locked down for 2 more weeks again. It just like, it blew my mind how unlikably unfunny this movie is. Completely. There is a scene where they're on a video conference call with one of the VPs of the studio, right? And she's like, it's what's her face from Saturday Night Live. God, let's see if it's even on here. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. And she's generally okay, but let me see if I can find that name real quick here. No. God damn it. She's the SNL, but she speaks in such a monotone voice that is just Kate McKinnon. Like, she's funny and stuff. I've seen her. There was some like spy movie she was in that I thought was okay, you know. But she has like this monotone voice that is annoying anyway. She plays like this VP that's always in a different location, clearly green screened wherever, like, oh, I'm on a safari. Oh, I'm skiing in the Alps, whatever. There's like this random scene where Beck shows up and performs, and like there's the cast is dancing. And like just the scene is dumb for a lot of reasons. Like, pointless, didn't need to be in the movie. This 2-hour-plus movie, by the way. Like, if this movie was an hour and a half, maybe I would like it. Maybe. Because at least it would be like a tight 90 minutes, in and out. So much of this could be cut, including this Beck scene, which makes 0 point, has nothing to do with any part, any aspect of this movie. And it's like a good 5-minute scene. It's just Beck shows up. And like in the scene, like he's being projected on the side of this hotel that they're all staying in. Now, where would you think that image would be projected? Right? You would think that that image would be projected, you know, maybe 5 to 10 feet off the ground on the wall, right? That might be, everybody can see it. No, this is projected not only at the top of the building, right? Like this 10-story hotel. It's like at the top floor or two of this building is where this image is being projected. But it's like the top and far left. Zero reasoning why. Makes 0 sense. It is just, so much of this is just stupid. It's like, I don't understand how Judd, like, I want to know how many drugs Judd Apatow was on while writing this dog shit of a movie. Because it is so mind-numbingly crazy that a man that could come up with really great comedy movies, doing comedies in a way that nobody is doing comedies, actually showing respect to the art of comedy with his films, to then pull this pile of shit out of his ass and put it on Netflix. And even the characters at the end of this movie know they're in a bad movie. One of the lines is like, it doesn't matter how bad the movie, as long as the end of the movie is good. And that will make you forget the rest of the bullshit that you sit 2+ hours to watch. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. Which is true. The end of this movie, which I don't give a fuck about spoiling it because it is not a good movie, is that the movie itself that they are making within this movie, right? The cliff monsters, beasts, whatever it's called, movie fails. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense why this franchise is popular. It doesn't, like, nothing makes sense in this movie. But the making of documentary that's being filmed along with the making of this movie takes off. A documentary about the making of Beasts, Cliff Monsters 6 or whatever. That takes off. So the end of this movie is like doc style. You're getting interviews with people. Like, it is the only time this movie at all is entertaining. At all. This entire movie should have been that documentary, doc style, where you're getting like, you're seeing the events happen, and then you're getting the completely filtered version of whatever these talking heads are talking about. You get the contrast from the ridiculousness of the reality with what they say when they sit down in front of this documentary camera, film crew. Should have been. The movie is correct. Yes, the end of this movie is good, but the movie is wrong in that having a good ending fixes the entire movie. And I had a movie recently, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, is a movie that I actively hated. And as the movie went on, I enjoyed more. And by the end of the movie, I loved that movie. Right? That's a movie where the ending really, really amplified the movie as a whole. It recontextualizes a character in a way that made me enjoy the movie as a whole. This ending for The Bubble does not do that. Was it good? Yeah. It was the only decent part of this entire film, but it wasn't enough to make me forget the 2 hours I had already watched. And of course, there's this Chekhov's helicopter situation where one of the stars just learns how to fly a helicopter up and down. Like, he never learns how to go forward. So, of course, there's a scene at the end of this movie that involves the fact that they're trying to escape, but he doesn't know how to go forward with the helicopter. But again, because this movie doesn't understand the internet, you can learn how to fly a helicopter with YouTube video pretty effortlessly, apparently. It's easier to learn a helicopter in this movie, learn how to fly a helicopter in this movie than it is in The Matrix. And The Matrix, they could literally download the instructions of how to fly a helicopter into your brain directly. This movie's easier because you just have YouTube and you look it up while you're in midair, hovering, and then you learn. And then you can fly just perfectly fine. Bad movie. There's a drug scene in this movie where all the cast members, because because there's got to be a drug scene, I guess. And the way this drug scene is portrayed is by using a bad version of face swap, where it's just characters in in all of these actors sitting in a circle doing all kinds of different drugs. All of a sudden start seeing other people's faces, because that's what happens when you do a lot of drugs. People's faces just look like other famous people in bad face swap. As if they use the exact technology that TikTok or Snapchat uses for their face swaps, right? Where you can tell it's a digital face swap going on. If you're watching a TikTok video, that exact same level of care is put into all of the face swaps in this movie. Just lazy and bad. See if there's anything else I need to talk shit about of this movie. The movie should have been doc style. If that whole movie, it would have been at least entertaining. It would have been okay. An interesting take on how it would just give it something more than just dog shit. That's pretty much it. At the end of this movie, they're the characters are patting themselves on the back, right? The Judd Apatow writing this movie, he's he knew he wrote a bad movie, but then he thinks that the end of the movie that he wrote is good enough to make up for the entire dog shit of 2 hour plus of this movie, of this runtime for this movie. He thinks that the end is good enough to make you forget that you just sat 2.5 hours, not 2.5, 2 hours watching a piece of shit, right? And he's even patting himself on the back, writing these characters, going I'm even going to call my shot. I'm going to make the movie end so good that these characters are going to call it. Oh, it doesn't matter how bad the movie is because I know I wrote a bad movie. I just put it out because it's COVID. Who cares? Everybody's dying. They don't care about watching good films anymore. They'll just appreciate that anything came out. Which, if this was the only movie that came out, yeah, probably people would. But there's a lot of good movies coming out. A lot of good movies. Good comedies, good dramas, good superhero movies, good everything. All kinds of good movies are coming out. This movie's patting itself. Oh, it doesn't matter. You should be lucky as an audience. You should be thankful that we put out a piece of crap. During these hard times, you need the distraction. Bad. Like, so much. Like, not only is this movie bad, it's like insulting. This movie's so bad, the characters insult the audience for spending time watching it. So anyway, The Bubble. It's on Netflix. I wouldn't recommend it. If anybody says they liked it, I would not take their opinions on film moving forward, specifically comedy. People that think this movie is funny have very strange, like, I don't want to know what other movies they think are funny. If somebody thinks this movie's funny, I don't want recommendations on other comedies to check out. I do not at all. So anyway, The Bubble, it's on Netflix. Torture yourself for more than 2 hours if you want. I don't care. And neither does Judd Apatow. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring